Hello. Desperate plea time. If you have a glitch in the Matrix story that you would like to share with the channel, please consider doing so. I'm kind of running out of stories. And of course, thank you. I'm a 55-year-old man, and my daughter suggested that I submit one of my glitches to this podcast, as she is an avid listener. I've had many glitches happen throughout my life, but the one that I always tell, and that leaves me feeling crazy, is one like the movie Premonition. This happened when my eldest daughter, let's call her Diane, was in college. She was a first-generation student and had a full-ride scholarship, so our family was very proud. While in college, she met her first boyfriend, she never dated in high school, Isaac. Isaac was a junior engineering major when we met him, and even met his parents during his and Diane's one-year anniversary celebration. He lived in the town where they went to college, and my family and I were 2 hours away, and to know that Diane had somewhere close to go in case of trouble was comforting. The glitch happened during St. Patrick's Day of Diane's sophomore year. So, although Diane had a full scholarship, she worked a part-time job at a retail store for extra cash, and that day she was working until close and had asked if I could send her some money before work, as she was between paychecks. Her mother sent it, and Diane texted me that she received the money and thanked me. She said she would text tomorrow, as she said she had to pick up Isaac to be a DD for him, and she would spend the night there. Diane wasn't a partier, so I never worried about her drinking and driving or getting into predicaments. About 4 or 5 a.m., I got a call from the police department in Diane's town asking for her parents. I told them that it was us, and he informed us that Diane had been in an accident and was at the hospital in the town over from her college. He said he didn't have any information and that we needed to go there as the ER team was busy with life-saving measures. Within minutes, my wife and I packed up our other 3 daughters and flew the 2.5 hours to the town they said Diane was at. We got a hold of the hospital, and they said they couldn't release information over the phone, but told us how to get there and which side of the hospital to go to. When we got there in a rush, we were told to go up to a top floor, and that Diane was there, as she and Isaac were taken into the trauma unit. When those elevator doors opened, I had this feeling in my gut that I needed to prepare for heartbreak. My wife and I ran to the desk and asked about Diane. A nurse pointed to a waiting room and said that a doctor would be in. The doctor didn't take long, and gave the worst news that you can get as a parent. Diane didn't make it. They said that she had put up a good fight, but a head injury caused a life-ending seizure when they were intubating her. The doctor gave us his condolences and said that we could see her before the morgue took her, and that a social worker would be up to talk to us about moving Diane's body back to the hometown. Seeing my daughter like that is forever seared in my brain. All the tubes and wires and blood everywhere. She looked like her, but not. Isaac's parents stopped over and hugged us, as they said Isaac didn't make it either, but he was killed on impact. Apparently, a car full of college-aged girls were driving drunk and turned left at a red light without stopping and went full speed head-on with Diane and Isaac. Isaac's parents said the other parties' families were there as well, and that of the 5 girls in the vehicle, 4 were killed on impact, and the other one was in critical condition. The next day was a blur, and my family was sleep-deprived. We didn't want to leave Diane, but we had to make arrangements. Although I was emotional and sleep-deprived, I knew that my daughter had died. We never received a call saying she came back. We left the town about 12 that afternoon after talking to a social worker and the police. When we got back, everyone was crying throughout the day, and we made calls to the relatives and our spiritual leaders. We're Native American, and we hold 3-day wakes followed by a funeral, and usually it's open casket. After making calls, we realized that we would have to collect Diane's things from her dorm room, which we overlooked in our grief coming home. We called campus housing and explained what happened, and asked her information as we didn't remember her dorm info. The lady was very sympathetic, and gave us the information and said that they would leave a note for when we go there. Now, I had laid down after that call, but I don't remember sleeping or waking up, really. I just remember sitting up, and the atmosphere felt different. I looked at the time, and it was the afternoon. I checked the rooms of the house, and none of my other daughters nor my wife were there. I called my wife, and I asked her where she was, and she said work. I asked why she went to work, and she said because she does every weekday. Or was she missing something? There was no grief or sadness. Nothing in her voice. I asked her if she remembered last night, and she said, "What happened?" And then she said, "Oh, and I sent Diane the money she asked for. Just make sure that she got it. I have to go." Hearing that confused me, but raised my hopes. Diane? Today? I checked my phone, and right when I did, I got a text from Diane saying she got her money, and that she was going to DD Isaac tonight. I called the number half thinking it would just ring, but my other half hoping that she would answer. She answered. To hear her voice made me cry like a baby. Dad, what's wrong?" she asked in a panicked voice. I collected myself and said, "Baby, I had a horrible dream about you dying, and I'm being serious. This is weird. I don't know if it was a dream or what happened, but you're alive, and I want you to stay alive." Diane was confused, and I told her that I was on my way over there, and I would take her and Isaac to dinner. I begged her to call into work, and that we would have a great time. Just to appease me, she agreed. I let my wife know that I was going to see Diane ASAP, and that I would tell her when she got off work. When I got to campus, I decided to check something and went to the housing desk and asked for Diane's information. They said they would give the room a call. I looked over at their desk and saw no note about picking up anything from Diane's dorm. I heard them talk on the phone, and they gave me Diane's info. Let me tell you, when she opened the door, I hugged her so tight, and I did not want to let go. She looked like herself and everything. I still felt sleep-deprived from that glitch call, but I was happy. The rest of the evening went well, and I went home and explained everything to my wife. We saged ourselves down and prayed for our family's safety. Diane is now 31 with 2 kids of her own, and every day I'm still afraid that I'm going to glitch again and go into a reality where Diane is gone and my grandkids don't exist. So, a few years ago, I spent a month studying French in Montreal, Canada. I stayed at a student residence. I had my own room, but the rest was shared. And for some reason, the agency that booked my stay forgot to book the last night there. I couldn't pay for one more night, as my room would already be taken by another student, as well as the other rooms. So, I would have to spend my last night in Montreal somewhere. As I didn't want to pay too much, I was 19, was just starting my career, and wanted to keep a bit of money that my father had given me for that French course, I decided to spend the last night at a hostel in the city center. So, I booked a room in that hostel through the internet, got there, got settled, walked around the city for one last time that night, had dinner, and slept. I paid everything with credit card, and it was in my wallet. I put my wallet away in my backpack and locked it in the locker. The next morning, when I woke up, I noticed that my wallet, which I knew that I had put inside my backpack, was no longer there. I had put it away in that obvious front compartment of any backpack. I took everything out of my backpack. Everything. I turned it over and opened all the compartments. I checked inside a few clothes that were inside it, as the wallet could have gotten inside of them, but nothing. Nada. I even shook it. It wasn't anywhere in there. I also searched for it in my suitcase, but I knew that I hadn't put it away in there. I knew it was in the backpack. I hardly thought that someone could have stolen it, as both my backpack and my suitcase were kept inside the locker all the time, locked with a padlock, as I said. Still, I went to reception and they recommended me to go to the police station to file a theft report. That wasn't an option, as my flight would leave in a few hours and it was an international flight. Luckily, my ID, passport, was with me, but I needed money. My credit card and all the cash that I had were in my wallet, to at least go to the airport and eat. I just wanted to go home. I asked a college from the French course for help, and she gave me the money that I needed to go to the airport and eat, and then I'd give it back to her as soon as I got home. I even checked my backpack again, in all of the compartments, and took everything out one more time just in case. My wallet was not in there. Okay, so let's get to the end here. I came back home. I'm from Brazil. And the flight was smooth and uneventful. I arrived in my city the next day after 2 layovers in the afternoon, and went to sleep as soon as I arrived. The flight was overnight, and I don't sleep well in economy class. And I didn't touch my suitcase or backpack. I just left them beside my bed in my room. At night, when I went to unpack my bag and backpack, my wallet was in the most obvious place in my backpack, in that smaller compartment on the front of it, where I always put it, and where I had looked the previous day repeatedly. I froze right there, and I had goosebumps. I knew that I had searched everywhere, and it was in the compartment that I knew it should be. I swear I had taken everything out. I had checked all the compartments and pockets. I remember I spent like 30 minutes just searching for it in my backpack, with all the stuff out. At that time, I thought it was a kind of supernatural for real, but then I ignored it and just forgot about it. It was good that I kept that little money that I wanted, and I even paid my friend with it. But recently I came across this sub on Reddit and thought that it might have been a glitch in the Matrix. I want to stress that I did not and do not use drugs, or any medication that may alter my state of consciousness, nor do I have any mental health issues. I know I had checked for my wallet in the compartment that it was in. Again, it wasn't a case of inattention. I swear I had looked for my wallet in every single part of my backpack. What do you guys think? So, I have always heard of Glitch in the Matrix stories, and I can't say I believed them to be true until my experience last night. I work in an office building, and the best way I could describe it is that it looks just like you would see in the movies. Once you walk in the front door, directly to the left is a row of cubicles where customer service takes calls, which is where I work. In the center of the floor, after walking in the front doors, there is a small showroom, and to the right there are more rows of cubicles for the technicians, and against the right side wall are the restrooms. So, here we go. I work evenings, as we provide 24-hour service, and this happened late last night. At this time, there were only 2, sometimes 3 other people working on my side, and on the technician's side there was 1 person. Around 11 p.m. I had to go to the restroom, but I couldn't go until the other person on my side got back from break, or there would be no one to answer calls. On one of my monitors, I'm able to see who's clocked in, available, and on break. I was unavailable, the technician was also unavailable, and my coworker was on break. Now, before this gets crazy, keep in mind it's nighttime, and there is very minimal movement throughout the office. And after 2 minutes of no movement, the lights turn off. Finally, she got back and sat down, and right when I saw available next to her name, I put myself on break at 11:15 on the dot, and tried standing up really slowly as my chair happens to be ridiculously squeaky. Standing up slow didn't help. It was the loudest chair squeak I have ever heard, as a matter of fact. But I put myself on break and the timer automatically started so my boss can see exactly how long I'm gone for. But right when I clicked it, and the timer started, I felt weird. Not sick, not lightheaded, just weird. I got up to head to the restroom, and as I was walking, I began to feel light. And with each step, I felt more and more light. Like, if I were to jump, I would just float. As I passed the showroom, the center floor lights didn't turn on, and I walked the same route that I always do. I thought it was weird, but proceeded. I got to the right side of the building, and again the lights did not turn on. I asked the tech who was in that night if the lights had been acting up all night, and he didn't answer. I peeped around his cubicle and he was gone, which made no sense, because when I got up to use the restroom, his status was available. It was very strange, but I proceeded to use the restroom. Once I finished and stepped out, the lights flipped on, and on top of that, once they turned on, the tech jumped up and said in a joking way, "What are you sneaking up on me for? You almost gave me a heart attack." I asked him where he was at when I walked by the first time, which was about 2 minutes ago, and he looked at me confused and said, "I've been parked in this chair for the last 3 hours. I was so confused and just said, "Oh, I must not have seen you," and proceeded back to my desk. As I passed the showroom, the center lights flipped on, and once I got back to my desk, my coworker said something that really freaked me out. She said, "Hey, did you finally get that squeaky chair fixed? I didn't hear you get up this time." I sat down and it squeaked pretty loud, and she was like, well, that's odd. And sadly, this isn't the end of this experience. I went to take myself off a break, and the timer had only been going for 2 seconds. I looked at the clock, 11:15 on the dot. I still can't wrap my brain around what happened or where I went when I got up to use the restroom, or why time basically froze for the 4 minutes I was gone, but I can 100% say with confidence that I experienced a glitch in the Matrix. I have reached a conclusion time and time again for years. The conclusion? Well, my family likes to eat salads, such as chef salads. A salad with lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and croutons. My aunt came up with a dressing, and its dressing has olive oil, pomegranate balsamic, honey, mustard, salt, pepper, sweet paprika, garlic, and onion dust. But we also love potato salad, especially my dad, where the problem lies. For years, my mom made the potato salad's dressing with mayonnaise, ketchup, a bit of mustard, and a few drops of lemon juice and pomegranate balsamic. In the salad, beside the potatoes, we added Gouda cheese, boiled eggs, and cold cuts, and that's it. That was how my mom always made it, And then one day back in 2016, my mom realized we had a few years to make a potato salad and decided to surprise us by making some along with the sausages a family friend had brought to the previous night's get-together that my parents had, with beers and various snacks. So, Mom surprised us with the potato salad. But it was not how she used to make it. I commented on how the taste was odd, and that she had added tomatoes, green and red peppers, and raw onions, and that she didn't add Gouda cheese or cold cuts. Then, both my dad and sister looked at me confused and said that the potato salad was the same as always. I was then baffled and asked my mom how she made the salad, but she just smiled and said that a cook never reveals their secrets. On the past Monday, May 23rd, 2022, I had to help my dad to cook lunch, aka potato salad, which we had a long time to eat again. And since my mom had hit her knee and she was in pain and was busy sewing some old clothes, I helped Dad with cutting the onion, the Gouda cheese, and preparing the eggs while Dad cut the tomatoes and peppers and potatoes. When we were done with all of that, Dad asked Mom to give us instructions on how to make the salad dressing. Mom went on to tell us, and I was baffled. The salad dressing, according to my mom, was mustard, pomegranate balsamic, salt and pepper, a spice mix, and olive oil. I was so confused because she didn't even add ketchup as she usually did, or at least that's what my taste buds tasted. Mom usually added more mustard and ketchup to the potato salad when we couldn't afford mayonnaise, but she never added onions and peppers or held the Gouda cheese in cold cuts. Confused, I asked Mom why she changed the recipe, and both of my parents looked at me angrily. Too angry for just a recipe, and started to yell at me for making a big deal about the salad. I hadn't made a big deal. I just found it weird that I had to cut raw onions and peppers and tomatoes, and that Dad hadn't bought a mayonnaise for the salad, but I never voiced it. I just furrowed my eyebrows but kept following Dad's orders, thinking that my parents might have decided to shake things up and attempt something new. I grew hurt when my parents accused me of making a big deal about it, when in fact I hadn't, and I defended myself by saying that I hadn't said anything, and that I was okay with trying some new recipe. Then, Dad grew even more annoyed and yelled at me, asking what I was talking about with a new recipe. I went on to tell them about how we usually ate the potato salad, and they looked at me as if I had told them that I had signed myself up to join the European Space Agency while I failed physics and chemistry. Mom said we never ate potato salad with mayonnaise or ketchup, but I persisted that we did, and the only time we didn't was back in 2016 after that get-together. Dad sighed angrily and told me with an angry tone to stop being obsessed with mayonnaise, and if I didn't like the salad, I could cook something for myself. But we had never eaten a mayonnaise including potato salad. I gave up and ate the salad, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't something I would like to eat again. Or at least I wouldn't add the tomatoes to it and would add ketchup. I've many times butted head with my parents about the way they are making the salad dressings and salads that we usually eat. And every time they say that I'm wrong, and that we have never eaten the salad that way that I remember. Most times, I just give it up and chalk it up to me remembering wrong, but now I'm 10,000% sure that we have never eaten the potato salad like that again. Am I remembering a different timeline's potato salad or salad dressing? This happened roughly 10 years ago. I had graduated high school and was about to begin my first semester in college, but I had a few weeks to kill before then. So, I was home alone around 10:45 a.m. Because I had graduated high school, I felt a kind of accomplishment to turn off my alarm clock. It felt great to have a few weeks of freedom of waking up whenever the hell that I wanted. My parents were early risers. My dad, being from former military, woke up around 4:45 a.m. every morning, followed shortly by my mom, whose alarm clock went off around 5 a.m. I'm not sure what time my neighbors woke up, but I'm pretty sure they wake up around 6 a.m. as well. I was never fully awake enough to pay attention to alarm clocks of my neighbors. Well, as 11 a.m. rolls around, I decide it's time to prep something to eat, maybe boot up the computer to play some video games. I lived in a single-story, 3-bedroom house, so it's not very big, and I can hear everything from the living room or kitchen. By 11:15 a.m., I can hear the distinct sound of my alarm clock. I easily recognize it because it always sends a shiver up my spine. I have to convince myself that I'm in fact not dreaming, and that I did graduate high school. I race to my bedroom and inspect the clock. The alarm switch is set to off. However, it is continuously blaring at me. I hit the snooze button and check the time the alarm is set for, and it's 6 a.m. Once the alarm is silenced, I notice other noise emitting from all around the house. On senior night from high school, we received these commemorative cheap clocks, which had our high school and graduating class year etched into it. It took me a few seconds to realize that its alarm was going off. I had never heard it before, and I had no idea it even had an alarm function. I basically had to pull out the battery, because I didn't know how to shut it off. I was very confused as I walked out of my bedroom. Further down the hall was my parents' room, and I could hear the distinct wailing of their alarm going off as well. I entered the room and shut off that alarm clock too. After silencing all the alarm clocks in the house, I can hear the distinct wailing of alarm clocks coming from the neighbors as well. I was absolutely frozen in place, trying to figure out what was going on. Why were all the alarm clocks set to go off at the same time in the middle of the day? A few minutes go by, and everything returns to silence. The neighborhood goes quiet again, as I know I'm the only one home out of most of the neighbors. I walk out to the street, straining my ears trying to hear any sound whatsoever, as I could usually hear the sound of a stray car driving by, or the sound of a siren or honking. Nothing. For a good 3 minutes, it really feels like I am the only person left on Earth before the sounds of traffic begin to build up, and a distant wail of an ambulance goes by, and I'm able to catch my breath again. For the rest of the day, I just sit on the living room sofa staring at the blank TV screen, trying to figure out if it had just been my imagination, a hallucination, dream, or something else. To this day, I have never experienced anything like that again. As for the alarm clocks, I quickly disposed of my own before going to college, and I'm not sure about my parents' one, but I don't live there. But after a few years had gone by, my mom did mention that the alarm clock was broken and they had to get a new one. We sometimes just talk about random stuff. In 2014, I was standing outside on my front porch. Next to my house was a big green belt/water retention area. I lived at the end of the street where the street begins to curve to go on to the next street, if that makes sense. So, I had a neighbor to the right of me, after the street curved so the neighbor's house was facing east, and my house was facing south, and the green belt was in between the both of our houses. That sounds confusing, I know. Anyway, the entire sky was gray, like it was rainy weather. There was no blue anywhere in the sky, so basically it was just a giant sheet of gray clouds. I noticed that it had started to sprinkle this really weird type of drizzle on the neighbor's house, but not my house, and none of the other neighbors' houses. I knew this because I could see the line of demarcation from where the rain stopped on the sidewalk. This neighbor had another neighbor directly to its right. That neighbor's house was not getting rained on either. I thought it was really odd, but I decided to go in for a second and open the garage to take the trash cans out to the road. So, after I wheeled the trash cans out to the road, I stopped there to look around to see if it was still raining on the neighbor's house. It was not. So I walked out to the greenbelt because I could hear a rumbling noise. It was like the sound of a dishwasher running but up in the sky. It was a very low rumble, and I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from other than up. And the noise was spread out so that it wasn't centralized on any one area in the sky. It was just rumbling in the clouds. The noise that it was making was like this vrr, 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 vrr. It's hard to describe a noise through text, but if you can just say that noise out loud, then you might be able to get the idea. Hopefully me saying it out loud did get that idea across as to what it sounded like. Anyway, so I'm standing there looking up at the sky, and the gray blanket of clouds starts parting, and as it's parting, the rumble is getting louder, as if the rumble was coming from up inside these clouds. When I say the clouds were parting, I mean perfectly. Hold your arms straight out in front of you, and put them together, and then slowly start to move them apart from each other. The blanket of clouds was parting, with a perfect line formed straight down the middle of the clouds, and it was opening up, revealing perfectly clear blue sky up inside the clouds. And the rumbling was getting louder the further the part opened. I ran inside to get my phone to take a picture or a video, and my phone died. I had an old cell phone that I tried to use, and I couldn't get it to turn on. I even tried to use my ex-boyfriend's professional camera that he had at my house, but I couldn't figure out how to work it, so I was unable to get any visual proof of what I'm talking about. So I ran back outside to see what was happening, and it began to close. The perfect straight line down the middle of the clouds that had opened up and parted perfectly was now closing, and the rumbling sound was getting lighter. It had finally closed back together, and the rumbling had stopped. I'm looking around my neighborhood to see if anyone else was standing outside, and there was no one. Absolutely nobody. I was the only person that saw this happen, and it was directly over the top of the green belt, in between my house and the neighbor's house. The weird part is, it sounded like the noise was dispersing and reverberating off of a dome structure above the clouds. I don't believe that we are living in a dome. That's just what it sounded like. Hello all. This is probably not as shocking as some of the other glitch stories on this channel, but it still blows my mind after over 8 years. When I had just moved to Hamburg, Germany in 2013, I did what most 20-somethings do. I partied. A lot. So yeah, to prefix this, I was drunk at the time of the event. Very much so. But let me tell you that being totally wasted could not have caused this weird and random glitch. Since it's kind of hard to describe, and includes rather saucy circumstances, I hesitated a long time to write this down. I'll try my best to be precise. So, I was out and about one night, meeting a guy that I immediately hit it off with. And in the early morning hours, we decided to go to the beach and have some fun. It was about 7 or 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, and we pretty much had the beach to ourselves. We got down to business rather quickly, so I pulled my spandex and thong down to my high heel ankle boots. Mind you, these ankle boots were tied with shoelaces, and I never took them off during the entire endeavor. Once we finished, I tried to get dressed again. Shouldn't have been a problem, right? We never changed positions from me over him or him behind me, so I basically just had to pull up my thong and pants. Easy as pie. Only, it wasn't. This was when the glitch presented itself. My leggings and the boots were still as they were before. I was wearing both shoes, safely tied up, and my spandex were around both legs as usual. The thong was what dumbfounded me. I had only one leg still in it, the other part completely hanging loose between my legs. This could only have happened if I unlaced and took off my right shoe with the respective pant leg, pulled my right leg out of the thong, and then put pant leg and shoe back on, tied it, and kept going. Which is quite an operation to follow through while busy with, well, you know. To get dressed again, I actually had to take off my shoes and pants in order to get my leg into my panties again. To this day, I have no rational explanation as to how this could have happened. I am a little scatterbrained, and I was intoxicated with alcohol, but still, that could not have happened by accident or incidentally without me noticing. My underwear wasn't ripped or altered in any way, and I definitely put it on correctly before. At that time, I had never really heard of glitches in the Matrix and just brushed it off as odd. But over the years, I have paid more and more attention to the weirdness of reality. And I think what happened that morning can only be a weird jam-up in our simulation. I was packing my things to head to my college city for my residency, and due to the overwhelming hot weather that came out of nowhere, I had to unpack my summer clothes to take with me. I chose my best shirts, and as I was refolding them, I would try to think about outfit options, trying to measure for how many days these outfits will last me, when my mind drifted off topic as it usually does. That's when my mind went back to the current topics: the war overseas, climate change, my country's economy, and about my future. I wondered what has become of us as humanity when I started mechanically folding my shirts, and I picked up my blue shirt. My blue shirt has letter prints on it that I usually wasn't able to make out or try too hard to read because I bought it from a Chinese thrift store, and I knew it wouldn't make any sense since many times the shirts have grammatical errors or the sentences are gibberish. I pick up my shirt to take a better look at it and see if the sleeve length is good for the weather, when I saw the shirt's letter print and weirdly could make it out. It wrote, "What we think we became." And I froze. I found it very odd, like it was a sign or something. I just found it very odd and I wanted to share. So that was this week's glitch in the Matrix collection. Collection number 89. Hard to believe we're almost at 100 of these things. So dang close. Anyways, really good collection. Really good stories. Most of these were actually submitted to me. So yeah. Huge thank you to everyone who submitted these stories, and a huge thank you to those on Reddit that let me use their stories as well. Just know you guys are what keeps this series going, these collections of glitch stories. So if you enjoyed the video, please do hit that thumbs up button. Please also consider subscribing to the channel. That is if you are new. If you're not new, hitting subscribe will unsubscribe you. Please don't do that. That would make me sad. Don't make Raven sad. Anyways, You can also further support the channel by joining Patreon memberships or Super Thanks. All optional, always appreciated. Really does help more than you guys will ever know, though. Trust me. Yeah. So we here at the As the Raven Dreams channel on Mondays do what we call the Word of the Week. Well, if you look at the screen right now, and probably a few seconds prior to now, you will see and have seen the submissions to last week's Word of the Week. There were 25, if I counted them correctly. 25? I never expected that. That's a lot of people. So thank you to each and every single one of you that submitted your sentence. You guys are amazing. This week, we're going to... Nope, don't say it. Why do I always do that? Why, whenever I go to the next week, do I always want to say we're going to do something different? It's never different. It's never different. Anyways, this week's Word of the Week is justify. Justify, Justify, which is to prove or show to be just, right, or reasonable, to show to have had a sufficient legal reason to qualify as a surety, or to space lines of text so that the lines come out even at margins. Justify. And just so you guys know, you all sending me these sentences is more than enough to justify me doing new words of the week. Yeah. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope I see you in the next video. But until then, my friends, sleep well.